In the silent chambers of your own soul, a profound and sacred drama has just concluded. A period of deep, penetrating challenge, one that seemed to stretch the very limits of your endurance, has reached its divine finality. Take a breath, a truly deep and unhurried breath, and allow the weight of that truth to settle upon you. You are no longer in the crucible. You are now standing upon the cooled, polished stone of victory. There is a celestial awareness of your journey, a recognition of the quiet resilience you displayed when the world expected you to fracture. You, the chosen one, were placed on a solitary path, a difficult ascent, where the oxygen of encouragement was thin, and the path ahead was obscured by the deep shadow of doubt. This was not a random period of hardship, but a carefully orchestrated examination of the spirit. Think back to those moments, the late-night silence when you felt utterly abandoned, when every fiber of your being urged you to surrender the promise and embrace the comfortable surrender. That internal warfare, fought without a witness, was the true battleground. When you were stripped of worldly comfort, stripped of familiar voices, and left only with the quiet, persistent whisper of your faith. That is when the test truly began. The divine purpose was not to see if you would fall, but to observe the very process of your rising again. It was a test of alignment, a rigorous study of whether the roots of your faith were deep enough to sustain you when the canopy of your life was violently shaken. And you held fast. The spirit is often strengthened not by what it gains, but by what it endures in solitude. Like precious metal refined by intense unseen heat, your character has been forged into something unbreakable, something magnificent. You were tested on your capacity for forgiveness when anger was justified. You were tested on your ability to maintain integrity when compromise offered a swift, easy escape. Most profoundly, you were tested on your steadfastness, your fundamental belief in the unseen hand, guiding your life, even when that hand felt frustratingly absent. This examination was the highest form of trust, the divine saying, I will allow the pressure to rise because I know the strength that lies within this vessel. Today, the confirmation is sent forth. A declaration echoes through the spirit realm. You passed. You passed the test the enemy believed would break you. You passed the test that your own human mind deemed impossible. The congratulations you now receive are not for the easy victories, but for the quiet internal triumph of remaining anchored in truth, kindness, and hope when the storm raged loudest. The anointing upon your life has now deepened, sealed by the proof of your unwavering spirit. This is a moment not for excitement, but for deep, sacred repose. The work is done. The next chapter is open. This profound victory unlocks 7 specific shifts in your spiritual experience. Let us reflect on the meaning of this passing, not with speed, but with meditative awareness. Point 1, the confirmation of identity, the unshakable truth, the profound internal shift you are experiencing. The metamorphosis from believing you are chosen to knowing it with unshakable certainty is one of the most transformative spiritual milestones an individual can achieve, moving beyond mere faith into the realm of factual felt reality. It's a concept that echoes through countless historical and mythological narratives, from the trials of Gilgamesh seeking immortality to the arduous initiations found in ancient mystery schools. Historically, this transition is often marked by a severe crucible-like test, a period of intense pressure, loss, or endurance that stretches the individual to their absolute breaking point. This is not a punishment, but a spiritual assay, much like heating gold ore. to burn away the dross and reveal the pure 24-carat metal. The very word test is derived from the old French test, referring to a small earthen pot used to try and refine precious metals, underscoring its historical purpose as a method of verification. What makes this knowing so fundamentally different from prior belief is its source. It is forged in the fire of endurance. Before the test, your purpose resided in the hopeful, often noisy, chambers of your mind, vulnerable to the cognitive dissonance of daily life and the insidious voice of doubt. This internal critic, a combination of societal conditioning and fear, thrives on uncertainty. After the successful completion of the trial, that voice is evicted, replaced by a visceral certainty that resides not in the head, but in the deepest part of your being, the spiritual locus often described as the heart or soul. This is a profound neurological and energetic shift. Where the mind was once preoccupied with proving worth, the spirit is now occupied with living its purpose. This quiet, powerful knowing is the antithesis of arrogance. True arrogance is a loud, defensive cover for insecurity, whereas this new state is a foundational, factual shift in spiritual identity, an objective truth realized subjectively. This newfound spiritual authority is intrinsically linked to the concept of lineage, not necessarily a bloodline, but a verifiable connection to the source of power or purpose you serve. The test served as a rite of passage, formally validating your membership in a higher order or a deeper spiritual family. Anthropologist Arnold van Gennep famously outlined the structure of such rites: a period of separation, the trial itself; a liminality, the in-between phase of transformation, where old identity dissolves; and finally, reaggregation, re-entry with a new, elevated status. You have emerged from the liminal state. Your identity is no longer aspirational, it is ratified. The practical, outward manifestation of this inner certainty is observed in your walk, the way you move through the world. It becomes grounded, steady, and unhurried. This is the physical evidence of spiritual maturity. A person who knows their footing does not rush to prove it. They move with the deliberate, efficient authority of someone who has mastered their environment. They embody the Stoic wisdom that their time, energy, and value are not up for negotiation. This quiet confidence is, paradoxically, the loudest statement of your granted spiritual authority, a beacon that draws towards you the resources, people, and opportunities aligned with your confirmed higher purpose. This new level of authority is not a privilege to be flaunted, but a solemn responsibility to be embodied. Point 2, the calibration of discernment, the gentle ear. The profound solitude and silence that recently enveloped you were far from an accident or mere hardship. They were, in fact, an ancient, purposeful spiritual crucible designed to recalibrate and fine-tune your internal compass. This process, often referred to in various wisdom traditions, from the monastic asceticism of the Desert Fathers to the Hindu concept of tapasya, austerity creating spiritual heat, is essentially a forced detoxification of the soul, clearing the noise of the external world to amplify the signal of the inner self. Think of your mind before this period of isolation as a sensitive radio receiver constantly overwhelmed by static from thousands of competing frequencies, social media chatter, everyday anxieties, and the low-level hum of societal expectations. The silence you endured was the necessary act of moving that receiver to a quiet, high-altitude spot, allowing the true subtle frequencies to finally register. Factual studies in neurobiology even hint at this. showing that prolonged periods of quiet contemplation, particularly during meditation and isolation of thought, increase the volume of alpha waves in the brain, waves associated with a state of calm alertness and enhanced introspection, literally sharpening the neural landscape for focused perception. As a direct consequence of this demanding process, your spiritual senses are now noticeably sharper. This isn't just a metaphor, it's a reawakening of what psychologists sometimes call subtle perception and what spiritualists term discernment. You will now begin to perceive subtle energies and intentions, both divine and otherwise, that were previously invisible, hidden behind the clamor of your former life. Every person, place, and decision carries an energetic signature, a kind of vibrational olfactory marker that your newly tuned spirit can now detect. For example, when you encounter someone with a hidden agenda, you might not receive a dramatic flashing neon sign. Instead, you'll experience a gentle, almost imperceptible, peaceful caution, a fleeting sensation of flatness, lack of resonance, or a slight unnameable withdrawal in your solar plexus. Conversely, when you meet a soul whose path aligns with yours, or when you consider a truly beneficial opportunity, you will feel a deep, expansive, and utterly comforting confirmation. This feeling is a visceral yes, a settling of the entire being into a state of ease. This phenomenon is rooted in the principle of resonance. Your being is now vibrating at a higher, cleaner frequency, and anything on a lower or discordant frequency will naturally repel, while matching frequencies will harmonize and attract. It's crucial to understand that this heightened discernment will not manifest as a dramatic revelation. No voices from the clouds or sudden jarring visions. The universe speaks loudest, not through thunder, but through the profound, understated power of intuition. The real work now is to become an attentive listener to the quietest thoughts and the subtlest physical sensations. Imagine your intuition as a soft whisper coming from the deepest core of a library. If you are talking, shouting, or even listening to loud music, you will miss the message entirely. Your recent isolation has removed the external noise, but now you must actively manage your internal monologue to catch the signal. These quiet thoughts are often the most accurate because they bypass the ego, the fear-based rationalizing mind, and the memory of past wounds. To truly master this sharpened compass, you must learn to trust the initial, immediate impression, the very first flicker of feeling you receive before your rational mind rushes in with reasons to dismiss it. This quiet, gentle confirmation or caution is the precise, unique, and invaluable voice of your newly calibrated spirit, guiding you along your true, purposeful path. Point 3, the reclaiming of time, the unfolding purpose. Welcome, chosen one, to a fascinating and deeply comforting truth about the universe, the profound wisdom of divine timing. While the recent trial, that period of intense challenge, uncertainty, and perhaps even distress, felt like an agonizing crawl, stretching every second into an eternity, it was, in reality, a crucible forging your greatest strength. Imagine the trial as a complex, high-pressure geological process. Just as extreme heat and pressure are necessary to transform simple carbon into a flawless, brilliant diamond, the heavy, slow, moving energy of your test was essential to catalyze a fundamental shift in your internal understanding. This agonizing pace was not punitive, it was preparatory, meticulously ensuring the spiritual and emotional structure of your being was robust enough for the magnificent assignment that now beckons. Now, as you emerge from this chrysalis moment, your perception of time is meant to undergo a radical, liberating transformation. You will now begin to feel, not just intellectually understand, that there is a vast, intricate, and benevolent cosmic clockwork governing all creation. This understanding dissolves the corrosive urgency to rush or force outcomes. The tendency to seize the tiller and desperately row against the current, a natural human instinct fueled by fear and the linear tick-tock anxiety of our modern world, will recede. This shift is rooted in factual, even scientific, concepts translated onto a spiritual plane. Think of the Fibonacci sequence, Fn1 plus Fn2, the numerical signature of growth found everywhere, from the spiral of a sunflower head and the unfurling of a fern to the structure of a galaxy. Life follows these natural geometric laws of expansion, where each step must be complete before the next can begin. You cannot skip a step in the sequence of creation, and attempting to do so only introduces chaos and structural weakness. The beautiful truth affirmed by the passing of your test is that the external elements required for your next assignment are aligning effortlessly. This is the universe's undeniable endorsement of your readiness. Imagine your next great purpose as a complex theatrical production. During your trial, the universe was working behind the scenes, procuring the perfect costumes, new skills, designing the elaborate sets, new connections and opportunities, and ensuring every actor supporting people was in their exact appropriate position. If you had tried to push the curtain open prematurely, the stage would have been empty, the lights would have been uncued, and the performance would have been a disaster. Your patience allowed the universe to choreograph a perfect opening night. Therefore, your primary and most joyful task now is simply to embrace the slow reveal. There's a captivating difference between passive waiting, which is rooted in resignation, and active, expectant receptivity, which is rooted in absolute trust. This slow unfoldment is the sacred rhythm of your purpose. Your unique assignment, the one only you can execute with your specific blend of experiences and gifts, is not something that is running away from you. It is the inevitable destination toward which your perfected self is currently moving. By releasing the desperate grip of the clock and surrendering to the natural cosmic tempo, you step into a state of grace where effort is replaced by synchronicity, and the universe does the heavy lifting, ensuring your path unfolds not only successfully, but also with a magnificent, effortless, and perfectly timed elegance. This is the reward of the test, the glorious knowledge that you are being carried on the current of your own destiny. Point 4, the endowment of gentle wisdom, strength in quietude. The profound assertion that wisdom derived from spiritual testing surpasses all academic knowledge speaks to a core truth of human experience. Genuine understanding is forged not in theory, but in the white-hot crucible of personal tribulation. This is not simply a philosophical concept, but a psychological and even neurological reality. When an individual confronts a significant spiritual or existential challenge, a dark night of the soul, a profound betrayal, or a relentless period of doubt, the brain's circuitry and the soul's energetic framework undergo a forced, accelerated evolution. Unlike rote memorization, which primarily engages the hippocampus, experiential knowing activates deeper, more holistic processing, involving the prefrontal cortex for complex decision-making and the limbic system for emotional regulation. The wisdom mentioned here is thus a sophisticated integrated response mechanism, a spiritual reflex developed through repeated conscious engagement with life's hardest lessons. This is what transforms abstract moral principles into deeply ingrained immediate moral instincts. The most captivating manifestation of this hard-won wisdom is the emergence of a calming presence in the face of chaos, a signature trait of the spiritually mature. Consider the actual physics of a crisis. A high-stress situation triggers the body's sympathetic nervous system, flooding the system with cortisol and adrenaline, leading to the familiar fight or flight or freeze response. The untested individual reacts with mirroring agitation, becoming part of the escalating noise. The one who has successfully navigated their spiritual tests, however, has essentially rewired their internal operating system. Their core is anchored in a transcendent understanding, perhaps the Buddhist concept of anicca, impermanence, or the Stoic principle of differentiating between what they can and cannot control, which acts as a spiritual ballast. This allows the parasympathetic nervous system to remain dominant, enabling the individual to maintain an astonishing state of eustress, positive, productive stress, rather than debilitating distress. Their stillness is not passivity. It is a dynamic equilibrium, a quiet reservoir of processed experience from which measured, peace-filled truths flow. This internal mastery is most noticeable in the subtle yet powerful shift in communication. The statement that one will speak less, yet your words carry a greater weight of divine authority and soothing conviction, is a testament to the power of conscious presence over verbal performance. Untested ego often manifests as verbosity, a need to fill the silence or prove a point. The spiritual veteran understands the energetic cost of unnecessary speech. They have developed what rhetoricians call ethos, the credibility that comes from character, not through marketing, but through demonstrable integrity under pressure. When they finally choose to speak, their words are dense, with distilled meaning, free of reactionary emotion, and underpinned by the authority of lived, verified truth. This conviction is inherently soothing because it does not seek to conquer or argue. It seeks to simply illuminate. It is a wisdom that inherently respects the complexity of reality and the suffering of the listener. Therefore, these measured statements possess a resonant frequency that cuts through the surrounding noise, offering not just advice but a palpable sense of peace, serving as a beacon of stability for those still floundering in the storm of their own challenges. This wisdom, dearly bought and meticulously integrated, is a living, breathing testament to the soul's incredible capacity for refinement and ultimate triumph. Point 5. The removal of spiritual vexations, the clean slate. The concept of a divine examination followed by a systematic, profound cleansing is a fascinating thread woven through spiritual and esoteric traditions, often symbolizing a deep-seated process of spiritual alchemy, the transformation of the ordinary self into a gold standard, enlightened being. When you successfully navigate one of these intense, often protracted tests, the reward is not just a passing grade, but a practical, tangible shift in your energetic and spiritual architecture. The passage highlights a crucial, often overlooked benefit: the systematic dissolution of lingering spiritual obstacles that were intentionally permitted to persist throughout the duration of the trial. These aren't random annoyances, they are often deeply rooted, subtle energies, which can include ancestral patterns, the inherited psychic and emotional imprints passed down through generations, or karmic residues, the energetic debt or subtle distortions arising from past actions or choices. During the examination, these specific obstacles acted as a kind of spiritual friction, providing the necessary resistance against which your inner metal, your patience, faith, resilience, and compassion could be tested and forged. The test was not merely about enduring the external pressure. It was about maintaining your center, your peace, despite the continuous, low-grade drag of these internal patterns. For example, an ancestral pattern of scarcity or sudden financial loss might have been permitted to bubble up during your test period, forcing you to maintain trust and act from a place of abundance rather than fear, even as your bank account wavered. By holding your ground, by choosing the higher spiritual response, e.g., trust, love, non-reaction, over the habitual lower one, fear, panic, blame, you essentially proved that the obstacle no longer has dominion over your consciousness. You have transcended the pattern's hold. The result of this internal victory is the factual cleansing mentioned, a truly unique and specific liberation. It is factual because it's not merely a feeling, it's a verifiable, energetic repositioning. Now that the lesson has been learned and the necessary resilience established, the divine intelligence or the universe, depending on your framework, ceases to see a need for the pattern's continued existence as a teaching tool. Therefore, the spiritual energy that sustained these obstacles is being systematically dissolved. Think of it as a metaphysical removal of energetic anchors that kept your peace tethered to old, unstable shorelines. This is often experienced as a profound and sustained lightness of being, a deep structural rest that goes far beyond the temporary relief of a vacation or a good night's sleep. It is the quiet, undeniable peace that comes from the removal of resistance at the energetic root. While other challenges may arise, these specific, deep-seated spiritual encumbrances, the very ones that define the test, are gone, leaving a clearer channel for true rest and full access to your highest potential. This is the alchemical gold received, a purified, elevated spiritual field, ready for the next level of creation and peaceful existence. Point 6, the depth of compassion woven into the soul. Prepare to journey into the remarkable psychological and spiritual alchemy where endurance, that grit-filled, steadfast refusal to quit, is transmuted into a profound and active form of empathy. The experience described here is not merely a pleasant sentiment, but a genuine, hard-won developmental milestone, a transformation best understood through the lens of human resilience and post-traumatic growth. When you endure a trial, whether it's a physical hardship, a crushing emotional loss, or a sustained period of high stress, you do far more than just survive. You fundamentally rewire your capacity for human connection. This is because theoretical knowledge about suffering is abstract, housed in the prefrontal cortex. But tested experience, the kind that leaves its indelible mark, is visceral, stored in the limbic system, the very seat of emotion and memory. When someone else approaches you with their burden, your endurance-forged spirit bypasses the need for intellectual analysis, connecting instantly, heart to heart, through a silent, universal language of shared struggle. This profound transformation constitutes what can be called a subtle anointing for healing and comfort. The term anointing here beautifully captures the idea of being consecrated or set apart by experience itself. Factual information from the field of psychology backs this concept. This elevated form of empathy is a core component of compassion, fatigue, resilience. Studies show that helpers who have successfully navigated their own severe crises are often less susceptible to burnout, not because they care less, but because they possess a deep internal locus of understanding that grounds their efforts. They understand the difference between fixing a problem, which is often impossible, and simply being present in the void, which is often all that is needed. Furthermore, this tested experience gives rise to cognitive empathy combined with emotional empathy. You don't just feel what they feel, emotional, but you also have a clearer, more objective map of the valley they are in, cognitive, because you have traversed it. This allows you to offer comfort that is not only warm, but also incredibly wise and relevant, avoiding platitudes in favor of genuine, hard-earned insight. The captivating metaphor that your scars become stars beautifully encapsulates the concept of post-traumatic growth, PTG. PTG is a phenomenon studied extensively by psychologists like Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun, defining the positive psychological change experienced as a result of struggling with highly challenging life circumstances. It's not just bouncing back, resilience. It's bouncing forward, a fundamental restructuring of one's core beliefs and life priorities. Your scar, a factual remnant of a past wound, ceases to be a mark of damage and is elevated to a point of light, a star. These stellar points perform a crucial function. They gently guide those who are still lost. Think of the North Star, Polaris. It is not the brightest star, but its steadfastness in the night sky makes it the most reliable guide. Similarly, your compassion is described as a quiet, steady flame. It's not a blazing inferno of pity, which can often overwhelm the recipient, but a controlled, enduring warmth. This steady flame ensures that your ministry of comfort is sustainable, grounded, and perpetually available, serving as an enduring beacon of hope that whispers, "I know this terrain, and you are not alone." Your triumph, rooted in endurance, is now irrevocably linked to the service of others, transforming personal pain into universal purpose. Point 7, the restoration of peace, the sovereign state. Congratulations are indeed in order, for you have not merely passed a test. You have orchestrated a profound internal alchemical transformation, stepping across a vital threshold into a higher state of spiritual peace. This moment is far more significant than a simple achievement. It is the inauguration of your sovereignty over your own inner landscape. The turbulent, often chaotic circumstances that comprise the recent test were not arbitrary suffering, but rather a meticulously calibrated crucible designed specifically to assess a single critical metric. Your capacity to remain tethered to a gentle, foundational peace, even as the external world, or indeed your own immediate emotional state, erupted into turmoil. This is a concept echoed throughout philosophical and spiritual traditions, from the Stoic idea of apatheia, not apathy, but a tranquil state free from emotional disturbance, to the Buddhist principle of non-attachment, which recognizes that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, a product of resistance. Your successful navigation demonstrates that the anchor of your consciousness is set not in the shifting sands of circumstance, but in the bedrock of an unshakable tranquility, a feat that is both psychologically sophisticated and spiritually profound. Because you have proven that your core state is robust enough to withstand the pressure, a phenomenal and scientifically recognized phenomenon, the mind-body connection's influence on the environment will now begin to manifest, shifting the atmosphere around you to distinctly reflect your internal victory. Where the corrosive energy of worry once exerted its subtle yet draining influence, creating cycles of negative self-talk, contributing to somatic stress responses, and attracting congruent experiences, a gentle, sovereign peace now undeniably reigns. This isn't merely a psychological relief. It's a tangible shift in your energetic signature, factual interjection. Modern quantum physics and fields like biofeedback suggest that our emotional states directly influence the coherence of our heart rate variability, HRV. A worried state generates an erratic, incoherent rhythm, while a state of profound peace or gratitude generates a highly coherent sinusoidal wave pattern. This coherence, often referred to as a peace signal, has been scientifically shown to not only optimize bodily functions, but also to subtly influence the electromagnetic environment immediately surrounding the individual, effectively creating a more harmonious field. This burgeoning peace is not a temporary ceasefire. It is your permanent mantle of sovereignty, the reward for your internal diligence, and an active, impenetrable form of protection. Imagine this peace not as a passive state of quietude, but as an invisible, highly dynamic force field. When you project this internal stillness, external disturbances, be they sharp words, unexpected difficulties, or petty annoyances, will cease to penetrate the sensitive core of your being. Instead, they will encounter the reflective shield of your tranquility and be dissipated or neutralized before they can trigger a fight or flight response. This peace acts as an internal tuning fork, ensuring that your future experiences will resonate with its high, clear frequency. You will naturally begin to attract circumstances, people, and opportunities that are congruent with this achieved state of inner mastery. This is the ultimate lesson of the test. The greatest reward for overcoming an external challenge is always the internal character and consciousness forged in the process. The sovereign peace you now embody is not only your well-deserved reward, but also the foundation upon which you will build your next, more expansive chapter. Take a moment today to breathe deeply and recognize the sacred transformation that has taken place within you. You are not the same spirit that stepped into that season of trial, uncertainty, or spiritual stretching. Something within you has shifted, quietly, steadily, and unmistakably. The testing did not diminish you, it purified you. The pressure did not break you, it revealed what was unshakable. Like gold refined in fire, you have emerged with a clarity and strength that only experience can carve into the human soul. You may not feel dramatically different. There might not be fireworks, applause, or a sudden emotional rush. But heaven does not celebrate with noise. It celebrates with recognition. And right now you are recognized. Your endurance has been recorded, your obedience acknowledged, and your resilience honored in the unseen realm. The victory you carry is not loud. It is etched into the architecture of your spirit. It is woven into your identity, stamped into your destiny, and witnessed by the one who guided you through every silent battle. So rest in this truth. Let it settle into your bones. You passed, not because you were perfect, but because you remained. Because you stayed when you could have walked away. Because you trusted when everything around you suggested doubt. Because you kept moving forward even when your steps were trembling. This is what heaven calls victory. Now your task is no longer to strive, but to walk calmly, steadily, and confidently. The path ahead is clearer than it has ever been, illuminated by the soft glow of divine approval and the lessons you've earned through quiet endurance. Move with sobriety, not fear. Move with peace, not pressure. Move with the assurance that you have already been prepared, equipped, and affirmed for what comes next. Congratulations, chosen one. The mantle is on you. The season is shifting. And you, refined, recalibrated, and renewed, are ready.